History tells us there was a flood. Every major ancient civilization mentions it, from the Babylonians to the Greeks to the Native Americans. They all carry the memory of a time when the waters rose and swallowed the world. We are taught that God sent the flood because people were wicked, that they were violent, that they had turned away from God. That is absolutely true. But have you ever stopped to ask, why? Why was this solution so absolute? Why did God have to hit the reset button on the entire planet? Why did every single man, woman, child, and beast have to perish, except for one family? What if the flood wasn't just about sin? What if it was about contamination? Today, we are opening the oldest file in human history. We are investigating the Nephilim, the Watchers, who were also called sons of God, in the moment when the human bloodline itself was hacked. For centuries, scholars have argued about who these sons of God were. Some say they were just normal men, descendants of Seth, the righteous son of Adam, who married women from the line of Cain, the world's first murderer. But does that make sense? If a righteous man marries a wicked woman, their children might be rebellious. But they don't become giants. They don't become superhuman monsters that devour the earth. The Hebrew term used for sons of God is Bene Ha-Elohim. In the Old Testament, this phrase is used almost exclusively to describe direct creations of God, angels. And the New Testament backs this up. Listen to the brother of Jesus in the book of Jude, verse 6. He writes about the angels, which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. Jude tells us these angels, the sons of God, are now reserved in everlasting chains under darkness. Why would God imprison angels in chains if they had not committed a specific, boundary-breaking crime? There was an incursion. A group of angelic beings, known as the Watchers, or Sons of God, looked down at humanity and decided they didn't want to just serve God. They wanted to be gods themselves, so they descended. They took human wives, and the result was something nature never intended, a hybrid. Half angelic and half human. The Bible calls them the Nephilim. While the Bible gives us the summary, other ancient texts give us the details. The Book of Enoch, an ancient text quoted by the apostles, but not included in our modern Bibles, describes this era in terrifying detail. It says the Watchers didn't come empty-handed. They taught men how to make swords, knives, and shields. Before this, warfare was primitive. Then suddenly, humanity had weapons of mass destruction. They taught women the art of cosmetics and seduction. They taught sorcery, astrology, and other dark arts. Think about the explosion of technology in the ancient world. There suddenly was the appearance of civilizations like Sumer with advanced math and astronomy. Was this natural human progress? Or was it forbidden knowledge leaked by beings who weren't supposed to be here? But the worst consequence wasn't the knowledge. It was the children. Genesis 6:4 says, "In those days, giant Nephilim lived on the earth. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown." Think about Greek mythology, the Titans, the demigods, Hercules, son of a god and a human woman. These aren't just fairy tales. These are likely cultural memories of the Nephilim. To the pagans, they were heroes. To God, they were an abomination. The Book of Enoch describes the Nephilim as insatiable. They grew massive. They consumed the produce of the earth. And when the food ran out, they turned on humanity. The earth was filled with violence, not just war, but a consumption of life. This brings us back to our big question. Why the flood? If the sons of God, better known as the fallen angels, were mixing their DNA with the daughters of men, the human genome itself was being corrupted. Satan knows Bible prophecy. He knew that one day the seed of the woman, the Messiah, would crush his head as stated in Genesis 3:15. If Satan could corrupt the entire human bloodline with Nephilim DNA, The Messiah could not be born. There would be no pure human vessel left for Jesus to come through. This wasn't just a sin problem. This was genetic warfare. And that is why, when God looked at Noah, the Bible says something very specific. It doesn't just say Noah was a good man. It says Noah was perfect in his generations. Perfect. The Hebrew word is tamim. It's the same word used for a sacrificial lamb, without a physical blemish. Noah wasn't just spiritually faithful. He was genetically pure. He was the last remnant of uncorrupted humanity. The flood wasn't an act of cruelty. It was a rescue mission. God had to quarantine the earth to save the human race from being bred out of existence. But here is the interesting part. The bodies of the Nephilim died in the flood. But what happened to their immortal spirits? And could it happen again? Most people assume that when the flood waters rose, the problem was solved. The giants drowned. The watchers were chained. Case closed. But if that's true, then where do demons come from? The Bible is very clear about the destiny of human souls. They face judgment. It is also clear about angels. They are either loose in the heavenly realms or are bound in the abyss. But demons, the Nephilim spirit, seems to be something else entirely. They roam the earth. They seek to possess bodies. They are restless, waterless spirits looking for a home in anyone who opens a door to them. Why? Because they are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Think about it. A Nephilim was a hybrid, part eternal angel, part mortal human. When the flood destroyed their physical bodies, their human half died, but their angelic half. It couldn't die. It had nowhere to go. It couldn't ascend to heaven because it was an abomination. It couldn't go to the human place of the dead. So they were left here, trapped on earth, invisible and angry. The ancient Book of Enoch states explicitly, "Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men and from the watchers. They shall be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits shall they be called." This changes everything about how we view spiritual warfare. When Jesus cast out demons, the demons knew him. They were terrified of him. They asked in Matthew 8:29 if he had come to torment them before their time. They knew their history and they knew their future. They are the leftovers of the genetic war from Genesis 6. But the story gets even stranger. If the flood was meant to wipe out the Nephilim, why do we see giants in the Bible after the flood? We all know the story of David and Goliath. Goliath was a giant. He wasn't just a really tall person, he was a warrior from a race of giants called the Anakim. Also, when Moses sent spies into the promised land, they came back terrified, saying, "We saw the giants, the sons of Anak, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers." How is this possible? Genesis 6:4 gives us a chilling clue. It says, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that." This suggests that even after the flood, the enemy didn't give up. Whether through a second incursion of fallen angels or through Nephilim genetics surviving on the ark, through one of Noah's daughters-in-law, where the seed of the serpent tried to rise again. This is why God commanded Joshua to completely destroy certain tribes in Canaan. Critics often point to these verses and call God a moral monster. They ask, how could a loving God command the destruction of entire cities? But if you look at the Hebrew text, these specific tribes were the ones associated with the remnants of the giants. God wasn't commanding genocide against humans. He was performing surgery. He was once again removing the cancer of the Nephilim to prepare the land for his people. So, why does this matter to you and me, sitting here in the 21st century? Because Jesus gave us a warning that should make us all pay attention. In Matthew 24:37, when asked about the end of the world, he said, "As were in the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man." What defined the days of Noah? It clearly states, "For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying until the flood came." As we have seen, the days of Noah were defined as an attempt to alter the human condition. It was a time of forbidden knowledge, genetic tampering, and the blurring of the line between the natural and the supernatural. Look around us today. We are living in an era of genetic modification. We are merging man with machine. We are obsessed with finding alien life. The government is openly discussing non-human intelligence. Are we seeing the return of the Watchers? Are we preparing for a deception as big as the one in Genesis 6? The Bible tells us that there is nothing new under the sun. The war that began in the garden and escalated in the days of Noah is the same war we are fighting today. It is a war for the human soul and the human design. But there is good news. The first time, God sent a flood of water to cleanse the earth. The next time, He isn't sending water, He is sending fire. And more importantly, He has already sent the ark. Jesus Christ is the true ark. He is the one who preserves us from God's judgment. In a world that is once again becoming corrupted, twisted, and confused, He is the only safety we have. The days of Noah are not only returning, they are here. The question is, are you on the boat?